Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 486, and today we're doing battle with Shyvana Yuumi. And so, here come the dragons, the formidable dragons, if you will. I'm not out here just trying to meme for dragon clicks. I feel like this is an actual competitively viable deck. And so, where I'm starting to come at with Shyvana Yuumi is, as we speak, we're really entering best of 3 season, right? The Ruthless Rumbles are going on right now. The World's Qualifier Runeterra Open is a little over a week away. It's kind of time to focus in on best of 3. And so as far as the current format goes, I feel like I'm a little bit behind, right? As the Fates Voyage Onward set came out, played an absolute ton. I felt really good about the meta and my understanding of it and being on top of it with the last Runeterra Open. But with this one, like right at the start of the balance patch, I had to take a 7 to 10 day work-related hiatus. It is what it is. I wasn't able to play as much as I wanted to. And so I feel like I'm just a little bit behind. I don't feel bad about the meta. I just don't feel like I'm on top of it. And so as this format kind of pans out, the things that I feel pretty good about are still just banning Janna. I think it's, from a gameplay perspective, kind of absurd that Janna and her kit didn't get nerfed more than that bird just losing a point of attack, but I get it. You need to sell some event passes, you need to sell some skins. Samira got her skins sold, and so she has taken the axe to the stat line, and so we have to wait another month or two for the Janna skins to be the old news so that she can get nerfed. I get it, that's fine. We can just ban Janna. I'm good with that game plan. But where that kind of leaves me after that is I'm really interested in playing a bunch of champion strength decks. That's just like my standby comfort kind of thing to do, is just play a bunch of Demacian rally decks. Scouts is a very real deck right now. I'm kind of interested in playing it. I'm good with like the Freylord versions, whether or not that's something like Vayne Jarvan or Gnar Jarvan or Galio decks. Like I'm fine with all of that stuff, but you do have to start thinking about, well, if I'm going to play 3 champion strength decks in an open, what's my third deck going to look like? And so you have to kind of branch out from those kind of standard standbys, and I'm starting to look towards this kind of Targon-based thing. Now, on top of that, the next thing that I'm kind of really interested in this format is kind of fucking with the other Freylord decks, right? So if you kind of ignore the swath of Janna decks, that leaves you with just tons of Freylord stuff at the top of the meta. And so the Jax Ornns are still around. The Ashe LeBlanc is very popular right now. Darius Gnar is very popular. Gnar Jarvan is very popular. Just a ton of Freylord decks across the mix. And their kind of main form of interactivity is using Frostbites. And so if you are able to attack these decks with formidable units, there is a real chance that you get to negate like 5 and 6 and 7 cards out of their deck, because they just don't interact particularly well with the likes of the formidable units. And so that's where we start to kind of like look in my brain, is if like I'm really interested in playing these formidable based decks, which to be honest, were quite good against the Warden of the Tribes decks. You just had to draw your Balin and you had to champion strength before they played Warden. Like that might kind of sound like a lot of have to do's, especially with Balin getting nerfed. But without Warden of the Tribes running around, that late game is much more safe. And so, like, I like a lot of the ideas rolling through this. And now the next kind of piece to the equation here is, speaking of those Ashe LeBlanc decks, I've been kind of playing a whole bunch of the 8-cost rally dude, the 8-cost 5/5, and it's like, this guy's pretty fucking good, right? There's nothing wrong with playing a 6-cost 5/5 that rallies. And so it's like, if we're really interested in playing champion strength, why can't we play something like Dragon Guard Lookout, especially as we have a dragon-based formidable unit, and then we're kind of looking towards other things to do in this format, right? And so we have access to just like Mountain Drake, Screeching Dragon, and Shyvana that should be kind of like enough of a kit to activate this Dragon Guard Lookout on turn 6 or turn 7. And so it's like, I'm very interested in that kind of thing. And then as you move on, you still have a lot of attack combos as far as these rallies are concerned, right? You have Yuumi as one of the champions in our deck. She gets a bonus every time you attack. The Darkened Lodestone provides those supports on attack. And then Balin, of course, the more standard attack-based thing. And so this opens you up to these spots to where you don't necessarily have to play like a gigantic champion strength as the killing blow. You can start to drop like value champion strengths and value Dragon Guard lookouts if you're going to be getting multiple bonuses out of your Balins and out of your Darkened Lodestones. And so it's like I really start to like a lot of these combos that are kind of circulating and running around. And then it's also nice that we just have access to a fair amount of interactivity with the units. You're playing the Petricite Broadwings. We have the Dragon Guard Lieutenant in here, and then Confront, which was buffed a few patches ago to give an ally challenger. That's Grant. It's not till the end of the turn. That's permanent challenger, and it can potentially come out and draw a card. And so my kind of stance on Confront is if it wins you a combat you want to win, that's great. Like if we're going to play a combat trick, you lose that spell anyways. But if it gets to draw you a card on occasion, then, you know, absolutely fantastic. That's wonderful. And so, like, I really like a lot of the things that are kind of piecing together. I like a lot of the synergies and thoughts kind of going into this deck, and then it feels like it has a lot of angles of attack against the current meta, and it has kind of a lot of unseen kind of combos in here. And so that is it. That's the deck we're doing battle with today. You know what we got to do before the battles begin, though. We got to come out and pay that pay-to-win price. And there's only one card left in here. That's the way these Demacia decks typically go. Where you at, Gentleman's Duel? It's time for you to catch that premium treatment. Who is this guy? It's not... He looks like he wants to be like Fiora Tarek. whatever this guy is. Oh, it's the Lawrence Cavalier, the Lawrence Chevalier, if you will. Okay. I got you, my dude. You got a wild mane on you, you must say. He's got that glorious flowing hair, and then a little bit of that, a little bit of that bleach blonde goatee. I don't know, man. But my commentary on that guy is you got to say just something like, this guy fucks, right? That's how you have to feel about somebody like that. He's all well manicured and good looking. He's got that fucking pirate shirt on. I could most certainly see that guy out on the street and just be like, this guy fucks. You have to use it in the complimentary tone. I feel like that's a statement that can that can go down the path of memeage and what is it? Is it a gentleman and a scholar that you can kind of use as both a positive statement but also a sarcastic quip? It's in that same space. But into the battles, we got up against Akshan Pantheon for our first round here. Let's see how this goes. A fairly reasonable start with stuff like these Durandi Sculptors into Yuumi. You know, we can't interact with that action right at the beginning, which is unfortunate, but after that initial space, we can do some pretty good stuff. And so we did pick up a dragon. We can look to get the Dragon Guard Lieutenant going at this point, drop a challenge directly onto Akshan. But I think I'm just a little bit more interested in going for this Yuumi play, making the Durandi Sculptor a little bit more interactive. And it doesn't, like, our game plan doesn't just fail if this doesn't go how we want, right? I feel like if we play the Dragon Guard Lieutenant, we try and challenge down the action, and then he's like, cool, combat trick. Right then we're in a very bad space, but I feel like this is pretty good here. He's not going to want to block the Durandi Sculptor with his action after he equips the Swinging Glaive, and now we're kind of off to the races in terms of boosting all of our units, right? We have the second Durandi Sculptor, we have this Dragon Guard Lieutenant for challenges, and then we have this massive Mountain Drake for 2 turns from now. Like, I'm pretty on board with all this stuff that's going down. Let's get the Sculptor in. I don't think we can ever block action here. He can kind of like safely load him up with gems. Kind of is what it is. So he gems and then passes. Interesting. It's like I start to worry now that if we add the Dragon Guard Lieutenant, he's gonna attack because he sees the challenge for next turn. But I think that's fine. You know, it's just like we had that opportunity to pass. That's -1 tick from the strike, and then he doesn't get to Lucky Find, right? So he gets to do a bunch of shenanigans here. It's like we didn't have any combat tricks in our hand. I guess we did have the Champion Strength, but it's not quite the kind of Champion Strength I'm looking for. What do you pick up here? 0-2 on the stat line. All right, so how do we want to go about this? We don't have to go like ham this turn, right? We don't have to get completely involved with everything, and then we do have champion strength for next turn if we want. Like the obvious thing is to kind of bring down this 0/8 Mountain Drake, but you know, he doesn't quite, you know, take down Akshan. I think he's still fine. We'll still get some decent attacks in this turn, I guess. But I'm getting more and more into this kind of consideration of passing, and I do like this Dragon Guard lookout that's upcoming. It's got the grappling hook. Okay. So I think these attacks are still safe otherwise, right? We can do this, hook in the smaller unit. He either just gets domed by the Mountain Drake, has to make a big investment out of action, or if he has a quicksand, we still survive it with the Drake. And so I think that's fine. We're getting into this reasonable spot to where we can't just rally next turn and then attack around his action. Ah, fuck. That was a good draw.
Everyone should have a grappling hook.
We can still pull some of this stuff off, though. Like, he's not gonna OTK us on this next turn. And I think we should get into one of these spots to where we can potentially just attack around action. We just hook him off to the side. I'm still just drawn to that turn where he passed and we didn't take the mana bank. This kind of feels like we could have done it a little better there. This Pantheon's not going to be flipped until next turn though, so that kind of sucks for him. Still a damage short.
Never again will we fall to dragon fire.
It's gonna be obnoxious, isn't it? It's gonna be obnoxious.
Are you ready to stand for Hylas?
Okay.
No, Atreus. I will stand for us all.
In and out.
It's
Got the model for me?
just a little bit off. Okay. Ooh, that's been tough. Just a real crashing of spells that came through here. This has been kind of awkward as well in the sense that we just drew like 100 units this game and none of our spells. Like literally the only spell we've drawn this game's champion strength, and so our interactivity has been quite limited. Well, I think we're stuck in this spot to where we have to have champion strength just kind of work. Not the place you really want to be. So let's just go ahead and get started and see what we can do. Alright, how bad is the Pantheon flip? Did hit lifesteal, so we can still, you know, kind of potentially get him off of the board if we attack with. Oh, no, we're 1 damage short on these champion strengths. Okay, whatever. Oh wow, why not just have the 3rd grappling hook turn up at the end? We'll keep that in mind though. It just I feel like even without a spell in hand, we probably should have just let that gem turn go, right? That's where I'm still kind of stuck, is where he gemmed the unit and then passed, and we could have just passed it back and gone into the next turn. That would have cut him down a lucky find, would have cut him down 2 targets off of action, and we took some additional damage that way as well. And, you know, my kind of thought process was, man, it sucks to just 3 bank into the next turn because we don't have a hush. We don't have a +2/+2 in our hand. But I think we should have just accepted that and moved on. That's tough. All right, though, into the next one, up against Teemo Janna. Teemo Janna's got to be excited to be against decks that don't have Omen Hawk in it. Let's see how it goes. The Durandi Sculptor turns up. This is always such the damned if you do, damned if you don't space, to where you're really kind of out here chicken and egging with the Durandi Sculptor and the Broadwing. I think we're just gonna take the Sculptor plan. Like, we can add the Broadwing to the board and he's just never blocking it. Things changed. We drew the Dragon Guard Lieutenant, but this is like eating a Mystic Shot this turn kinda sucks, but I think this is okay. But that's what, you know, the kind of pain points with this is you want to get the big values out of your Durandi Sculptor, right? But you also want to have your Broadwing with Challenger, so it's just kind of awkward how those turns play out. But this is still fine. We're getting a reasonable amount of interactivity against this deck. I think we'll just let Shyvana hang out at home for a little bit. It's like, I think we'll go for the Durandi Sculptor. We just have to pass at this point, and then next turn we can add Broadwing and Hound. Need to be taking these elusives off the board. Don't want to just get killed by a champion strength. Interesting with the confront, but
I've come a long way from a flying stone bird.
I think this is still good.
If mistakes make character, then you are full of character.
To arms!
And then I'm going to put the worst unit on Teemo. Like, I don't care if we lose the Dragon Guard Lieutenant at this point, but if he's going to play some kind of combat trick to get out of the combat, I would actually rather the Acorn die. And so I wanted to put the better unit out in front of Teemo there. Or I'm sorry, the worst unit in front of Teemo. So if he has the Mystic Shot or the 3 damage burn spell, then we're still looking pretty good in terms of taking the Acorn off of the board. Now, I'm pretty certain we're just building into champion strength. The Shyvana's not going to make it on the board, but we should get a pretty big knockout blow next turn. Especially if he like doesn't Challenger the second Broadwing and then he hooks his Broadwing into Durandi Sculptor. Getting 2 attacks out of the Balin cards is quite good.
Janna, your wind makes my burdens lighter.
Wind need not be seen to move our world.
Disown your ill intent.
Interesting seeing the Mariner come in because he does just die to Balin. I mean, we have a pretty healthy life total at this point. It's just like, what's his angle here? He either has the +2/+2, which is manageable. I think we can just prevent it. I have to imagine if this game drags on, we're just gonna be okay. So let's see what his trick is. The thing that gets awkward is if like we come in and try and Pale Cascade the Broadwing to get out of his combat, he gets to play his card. Like, it's just, everything turns out to be super weird in terms of, you know, we're kind of playing the door game in terms of picking the right door A, B, or C, but letting the opponent react first, we do get to pick the specific combat that we want. Not a bad Puff Cat round either. But this should be fine, right? He doesn't have any draw 2s lined up. He played Janna 2 turns ago, and he hasn't played like the bird or anything. So he's at just like a singular card at this point. We should be fairly safe.
Storm unrelenting.
All right, get in there, Drake. Do your battles, do your thing.
Rethink your choices.
Uh-oh, what was the big draw for the turn? Is it going to be a 3 damage? Gotta be kidding me. All right. I think we're still in pretty good shape, but that is a fairly frustrating draw to let Janna survive and still be out here running around.
The Zephyr heralds the squall. Lift us up upon your
Insane. This is why we just come out and ban the Janna deck, right? It's so obnoxious how good all of the top decks are with this. Like, under normal circumstances, you have your opponent down to like 0 cards, and they're just playing off the top of the deck, and they can't fucking do anything. And now, just out of nowhere, he's got a flipped Janna for an extra card draw next turn, and he gets another draw 2 off of the Cloudwinder. Like, this shit's just so fucking bonkers. I have no idea why people last season were like, ooh, I want to play against Janna with my Warden of the Tribes deck. It was fucking insanity. Alright. Well, we have to get a reasonable unit on board right now. We can't just take 1,000,000 damage off of these things, so Shyvana is gonna be. It should shut down the attack from both the Cloudwinder and the Merriam. We have to take 6 off of Janna. And then we can still follow up a little bit here.
Blown away.
I think we have to Broadwing. It still lets us come down next turn and add Durandi Sculptor, get a challenge in, and then Champion Strength afterwards.
Gentle breeze to ease your burdens.
Every work demands a piece of ourselves.
Wind need not be seen to move our world.
Leap of faith, huh? You'll catch me, right?
I think that's where we want to be. I mean, we do have the option to just play Balin now. Let's switch to Balin. I like having the combat trick, then we can still just try and Champion Strength next turn. Gives us a little bit of a safer hook into Janna as well. I'm not crazy though, right, when I say that shit's insane? I don't think so. You top deck the literal 1 card in the deck to protect the Janna. Ugh.
They are nothing.
And then you get to draw 3 extra cards right after. Why not? Why not? This is fine. Shyvana's not super important here. It is cool to let them, you know, just come in and draw an extra 1,000,000 cards. Why, why shouldn't that be a thing, you know? Fucking insane. We'll just let this combat end. Kind of the same deal. I like having this little bit of interactivity with the form up. It's very easy for him to be like, LOL, it's Janna. And we can't come in and block enough early stuff. But it's only a Teemo, which makes me feel a little safer. Makes me feel a little safer as he gets to draw an extra 3 cards next turn. It's insane. This is exactly why. I don't know why anyone was ever like, oh, I want to play against Janna. As we were playing in the Open last season, we had the plan that if we actually have to play against both Janna and the Wildfire deck, we couldn't beat the Wildfire deck, so we would leave Janna up. But otherwise, it was just like a must ban. Like, those people that were like, I'm playing Warden of the Tribes into Janna, just fucking insane. Alright, 3rd Whirlwind, sure. Probably just dead at this point. We can't get the kill here. He has 3 damage incoming. Very easy to just be dead. Oh, such a frustrating game.
Needs a finishing touch.
All right.
You pull
Cool.
and
Get to draw some more extra cards. That's always been my thing with the Janna decks. You know, if you're gonna be in this space to where, like, I think that's just the actual perfect example, right? Like, there's a very limited selection of cards that you lose in that game, But if you're not like building these states to where you can just outright absolutely win, you cannot play against a deck like Janna like that. Like there's been so many kind of like game plans, like the things that you typically run to naturally throughout the course of card gaming is you get your opponent in that spot, right? Your board is just way better than theirs. Like we have an absolutely crushing board. You've completely drained all of the cards out of your opponent's hand. The game should be done at that point, but he gets the flip from Janna, so he gets to draw an extra card. He immediately hits a draw 2 unit, so now he gets to draw 3 extra cards the next turn. Within those 3 cards, he has another draw 2, and then after the draw 2, he hits a Sunken Temple and then another Janna. He's gone from that point to where he has literally no cards in his hand and he's just drawing top decks to being like, oh cool, I just drew an extra 8 fucking cards. Like, it's insane to me that this is a thing. Like, this is why it was so crazy for me to like run through the balance patch and then Riot be like, oh cool, the only change to the Janna kit is going to be -1 attack to the bird. This is enough to neuter the absolute best deck in the format, as we're going to nerf the only decks that actually counter this deck in the format. It's like, I get it. I get you got to sell some skins to keep the lights on at the offices, but man, it is insane to me that Janna just got nothing coming out of that balance patch. All right, next battle. Let's just kick it up. Kick up that salt level. Get it up to the heights of the ocean or some shit, right? I was thinking earlier, one of the things that gets me salty, you'll see, like on occasion, you know, somebody start talking and you're like, this person's a dum-dum. Not Sir Termund. We'll get to battle Sir Termund in the champion draft series here soon. But no, you'll see something that you know, makes you say, this person's a dum-dum. And so, like, in the terms of Legends of Runeterra, you'll hear somebody say something like, Legion Rearguard is not the best card ever made. Like, you know, that's dumb. That's just a dumb statement someone made. It does not reflect any kind of accuracy whatsoever. You'll hear somebody say something like, hey, Bust, I got a new deck for you. It's really cool. It's got Karma in it. And you're just like, this person's a moron, right? I don't want to do anything with this person. They don't know what they're talking about. And so I'll see stuff like that on occasion in terms of, say, like Reddit as well. One of the real peeves that I have is somebody that calls a movie a film, right? And so we've been going on and on about Mission Impossible over the past couple of videos, the mask reveals, the big takeoffs and stuff. And, you want to come up to me and say, hey, Bust, I saw an excellent film over the course of the past week. It's called Mission Impossible 4 Ghost Protocol. And I'm just like, you're dumb. You know, not necessarily you're dumb. That's not that's not the proper take for us to be having. But, you know, your ideals are questionable when you use a word like film. And so I got a new one today. It really hit hard. If you scroll through Reddit, you'll occasionally see a thread about something like about food. This is where it's about food, whether or not it's a food hack. That's another term that it just immediately makes me think that you're a dum-dum. If you call something a hack, I probably just don't like you. But yeah, and these things were like food hacks and your thoughts and feels about foods and the like. You'll occasionally see people talk about cheese, and so the idea here is going to be that shredded cheese is no good. They put all kinds of stuff on your shredded cheese so that it doesn't stick together, right? You don't want to open up your package of orange cheese that you're going to put on your tacos and the shit all sticks together. And so basically where it's going is they say that you should get a whole block of cheese, and then with your block of cheese you shred it on your own. And I was like, you know, I kind of get it. I understand the logic in the cheese shred movement here, but this sounds kind of dumb to me, and I don't think I can ever go with it. And so I was like, well, you know what? I've got this recipe. It calls for a fucking pound of cheese. Maybe I'll give it a shred. I'll give it a shred and see what happens, see how it goes. And it was just like exactly the same, except I spent like 10-15 minutes grinding up this block of cheese, and I also cut my finger on the cheese grater. And so, if the wife and the kids get into the stuff and they're like, oh boy, I got a red pepper in here, that's pretty cool. You'd say, no, that's not the case. That's not the case in what you got. You got a little bit of blood because the internet says you should grate your own cheese. Fucking dum-dums. But nonetheless, we can jump back into this game. I like this champion's strength. The opponent had a very little amount of mana, so there was a good chance that we just got to actually blast through for like 7 damage, and it does give us some of those attack things we were talking about, right? Now we have this spell-shielded Petricite Hound. Should be a giant pain in the ass for Heimerdinger Jayce to deal with. It's not to say that it's impossible for them to deal with it, but being in this space to where you need to have like both Mystic Shot and Vengeance, and with Sunken Temple on the board, it has to be stuff that was all naturally drawn this turn. Like, that turns out kind of nice. That's pretty good. And boom, we just hit. I was like, as soon as we hit a dragon on this turn's draw, we'll be able to get the rally coming off of our imitation incisive tactician. And so I think we can do some good stuff here. We can do some good work. See if we get those booms in.
Birds, clouds, more birds.
He says, uh-oh. Bust getting the rallies. Bust getting the rallies.
Your wickedness shall not prosper.
What you got in a Song Spinner? How close is that Seraphine? She's got a ways to go. She's only at 2 spells at this point, so no worries about her flipping off of this Song Spinner. Maybe off of the next one. Do you all think Sir Turman shreds his own cheese? I'm not familiar with Sir Turman. I know that he's done a lot in terms of the community. He's had a lot of competitive successes. As a person, I don't know him very well, but the level of ratings we need to put forth, right? Does Sir Turman use the word film in place of movie? Probably not. I feel like he probably says movie in place of film, so he's safe there. Do I think he shreds his own cheese? Absolutely not. I would not say that Sir Turman is a cheese shredder. I would say that he probably gets it right off the shelf, you know, pre-shred. And then the last one, would he recommend that you play Ionia? And that's where, you know, everybody can't be perfect, I guess. I would say that there's a possibility that Sir Turman might be an Ionia recommender, but I doubt he shreds his own cheese, you know, so he's got at least one good positive going for him. This is the hard-hitting analysis people come to the Bust channel for. Welcome. If you came here just to watch games with dragons in it, and now you're getting stuck hearing somebody go on about shredded cheese, you're fucking welcome. You're welcome. But all right, let's keep at it here. Go ahead and try and take this little tentacle off the board. Take away some of his better blocks. See if our friend, our friend Dragon Guard Lieutenant can't fight through. This has been a bit of a bummer. I was hoping this game would have been just over by now. You know, we've had this Petricite Hound really coming in and doing the work, but falling a little short. There's the vengeance, huh? Sad day. Sad day. It's just tough to do, right? I mean, he does have a million cards in his hand, but from the perspective of with the Sunken Temple on the board, you have to hit Vengeance and another targetable spell and be able to cast it all. You know, it's tough to do. I'm just curious if this game, if we didn't pop off our rallies a little bit too early. I was getting excited with this Yuumi being on board, but I have to wonder if we didn't blow the load a little bit too fast on both of those rallies. We still got 3 in the deck, though, so maybe another one will turn up soon. So interesting space if we want to just open with this Yuumi. Guess we don't now, but my concern is we do like play the Mountain Drake and then he just has a Calling Strike, right? That's gonna ultimately be a pretty painful round for us, losing the unit in that way, but we at least got the spell shield back down. can't actually deal any damage, but we got our big dragon back on board. So what you got? Another Yuumi? Yeah, that's been getting problematic. I mean, at least she does that little bit of work to where we're able to take the Pharaoh's Fancier off of the board, but two of our draws this game, being that second Yuumi, have been a bummer.
If it's a people problem, I'm your man.
Okay. We'll call it a GG right there. Filthy cheese buyer, am I right? Doesn't even shred his own cheese. GG. Yeah, that's tough. Like, I felt like we were really close to getting some big advantages off of those rallies. I felt like it was about to come in and snowball. And that Forge Chief was just the real bummer of the day. Like, we wouldn't have, necessarily had the reach we needed if we'd gotten the opponent down to 5 or whatever that attack was going to do. But I think we probably should have just stuck to putting units on the board and trying to go for the big, the bigger hit down the road, rallying with 5 or 6 units instead of rallying with 3 units on the board. I just saw that opportunity to level up Yuumi, and I had in my head that the spell shields from that Yuumi were going to be quite good, and it just wasn't accurate. But next round, up to battle against Darius Gnar. See what turns up. Get these dragons on board. What it's all about.
I have my orders.
Oh, Legion Saboteur coming to the party. Haven't seen you in a while, my friend. So are we just going to get nugged this turn? Right? If he opens, fine. Like, taking 3 is not that big of a deal. If he drops a Ruthless Raider or whoever, I don't feel awesome just taking 6. Like, but the kind of downside to this is as we kind of progress through these turns, we can get a little bit of a shutdown on his next attack with the second Durandi Sculptor, and all the health that we gain should be kind of relevant in terms of weakening some of his overwhelm attacks. But it just always feels like you're so behind when that attack comes in. But if our other unit in hand was, say, Petricite Broadwing, it would have felt quite a bit better, I think, given that the spot I don't want to be in is we play the Sculptor, we block the Raider and trade. This turn we come in, play our second Durandi Sculptor, it's a 2/2, we attack, he just doesn't care and takes 2, and then we're stuck with the trade the next turn. It just doesn't work out very well with the way our hand sequences, and so I feel like you just kind of have to soak it up. And then ideally, as we get multiple Sculptors on the board, we could just build up the health stats to block a Tusk Speaker and not die.
Leave nothing standing.
Gotta block these though. It's just becoming too much. We can trade these for his combat tricks as well. It's not that big of a deal. It would be nice to have a combat trick of our own here, but just kind of is what it is, as they say. So how do we want to go about this now? We can't get 2 units on the board, which is a bit of a problem. I think we just have to kind of lean in and say, here's Shyvana, and then next turn we'll play Screeching Dragon, try and hook something, and then hopefully he just doesn't have Darius. This has been another one of these games to where it doesn't quite feel like we have the mix of cards and spells right in here. It's just game after game after game, I've just been like, fuck. I just wish we had one more Pale Cascade to help fight through this. Alright, well, I'm going to hook the Saurion. Hopefully he doesn't have the +1/+3, the Sky Splitter. That's going to be a bit disastrous, but we can't just not attack this turn. We have to have something go right. And so if he's going to have a Elixir of Iron or a Frostbite, something that doesn't kill our units, I don't really care. It's just the Sky Splitter is the bad one. Whirling Death is most certainly manageable. As long as we get that unit off the board, I feel better. Like, we can take we can take on a Darius here. It doesn't feel great, but we're just not dead. You know, that's always a perk to just be not dead.
A warrior needs a drum beat.
So again, another one of these kind of bummer turns to where we can only get one unit on the board. I mean, it doesn't have to be Mountain Drake. We can play Durandi Sculptor and then look to play these other spells. I think that's where I'm kind of leaning here. Now, I do fully expect our Sculptor to die, so I'll put the Lodestone onto Shyvana. She'll get a flip off this attack as well. Are you fucking kidding me? Okay. Okay. It's just the way today is going, my dudes.
Stay still.
We picked the wrong path, I guess. We could have gotten 6 health if we just played the the dragon, but we lose out on all of our options there. Nope, play again. Take all of my LPs, please. I'd like to go. I'd like to go 0-7 on the day. All right, up against Lurk. Ugh. All right, into battle against Lurk. So we're on the evens. This is kind of close in terms of keeping Balin. I think he'll be fine here. We can kind of ignore some of their early game plays in the sense that, you know, typically if it comes down and you want to trade with Lurk, you'd rather trade with their, you know, 6-2 Lurk unit instead of their 2-2 Lurk unit. So we should be able to kind of safely play Durandi Sculptor on 2. And then just get the trade off of her a little bit later down the road. I'm not going to play the Petricite Hound. I'm going to save the mana for the Pale Cascade. Can't block Xerxes Hatchling anyways. Thinking hard on it. Should I attack with my Lurk unit? It's tough to say. I would expect the guy taking, you know, 30 seconds to attack on turn 1 with the Pike Skin to just immediately hit Rek'Sai, but it's not the way that one's going to go, I guess. So many choices. Do I have a Ripjaw Swarm in my hand? I guess I should play it. This is very tough. Wow, that was tough. There's the Rek'Sai. There it is.
Need repairs?
What a joyous day. What a fun match to be a part of. I knew I was right in that space. I knew it was going to happen eventually. Rek'Sai coming in, of course. Very big decisions being made. All right. How much mana do I have? How many units can I get on the board? Let me sit here and do some finger math. This is tough. This is tough. You know, I know I'm not particularly good at math, and so it can be tough to add up the mana values. The 1, the 2, you get it up to the 3. It's tough. All right, Sharkling comes in. So we can do. So we should have at least a decent attack on this turn. The spot that this has really gone downhill in was, of course, he high rolls into Rek'Sai and then just has the other way to put it immediately back on top. Oh my gosh, he missed a Lurk. Insanity. Insanity, let me tell you. But kind of looking to maybe build up into a spot to where we can use the Hush off of the Targonian Tellstones. The thing I ultimately worry about with those Tellstones is that we're probably gonna have to Hush Rek'Sai when she actually hits the board. And so I'm just not super amped about that kind of thing. but we'll just hit with Balin here. Again, I don't want to be in the spot to where we run into open attacks next turn. And so, like, if he opens next turn and we don't have any units, we just have to take all the damage. But if we keep a unit behind and he opens, we can at least hush, prevent that big chunk of damage. All right, the Bakai comes in. Can't wait to see what we hit here. Better think on it a long time, though. The absolute easiest deck I've ever played in my life. You gotta, you gotta take 90 seconds on each of these decisions. And see, this is what I was talking about. This game's done at this point, but in order to kind of get out of this, we really need to be hushing the Rek'Sai. I don't think we can ever win the game at that point, so we're just dead at this point anyways. Okay, GG. Whew. But yeah, that's a fun game. That's my thing with Lurk in terms of the balance patch as well. I made a bit of note of this. I didn't get to make a balance patch video in this one, so I can talk about it for a hot second here since most people don't follow me on Twitter. But the update to Rek'Sai, the update to Pyke, while it does make Lurk a little bit worse of a deck, right? Sending Pyke to 5 mana instead of 4 in terms of both playing him and the spell is a pretty big deal in terms of his usability. But for me, the thing with Lurk in the space that it was actually kind of interesting is if you go back to Expedition. And so if you think in Expedition, there were a couple of different Lurk decks, right? There was the Pyke Rek'Sai standard Lurkers kind of package to where, as we actually recommended it, you just don't draft the Bilgewater half of the deck. You just draft Mono Shurima. So every time Lurkers came up, you would only have the Shurima Lurkers, and that's where all the good ones were. But nonetheless, that was kind of a deck. And then a different deck was the Predict Lurkers. That was Pyke with Echo. And the idea was that you were going to play a predict spell, predict a Lurk card to the top of your deck, and have that be your Lurk. You can maybe predict Pyke to the top of your deck and get him for the Death from Belows. And so there were, while not necessarily effective, there were multiple versions of the deck that you could come out there and be drafting. There was a bit of overlap with the predict stuff, with like Feral Prescience being in Shurima and then being able to use Feral Prescience as a kind of main Echo-based build around kind of card. So what I'm getting at is there were options, right? You had the standard LOL, I attack and hit Lurk every turn Lurk deck, and then you have the kind of more finesse version with the predicts. And so ultimately at the end of the day, the thing with Lurk that isn't frustrating, the thing with Lurk is frustrating, is when your opponent hits these spikes naturally without doing anything. And so through deck design, the opponent's gonna hit their Lurk essentially every single time, right? They play a 40 card deck, like 37 of the cards have Lurk on it. That's not a big deal when they attack and miss a Lurk, right? That's just not something that happens with very much frequency. The way the deck building goes, if you want to hit Lurk literally every single time, you can do it, but that like 95% chance is close enough. The thing that really sucks a lot of ass when you play against Lurk is when they naturally hit a Rek'Sai or they naturally hit a Pyke. They didn't do anything to make that change happen, and then the course of the power spikes are so insanely huge when you just naturally hit a Rek'Sai and then you say either have one in hand or you have the way to put Rek'Sai back on top of your deck. Like, those games are fucking phenomenally challenging to lose from the Lurk perspective when you just naturally hit. And so my problem with the change to Pyke isn't the sense that it makes the deck overall weaker, which it barely does. It doesn't give the deck any direction in like multiple ways to do it, and it doesn't do anything about those really like feels bad high roll kind of games like that, to where opponent goes, LOL, watch this. I play Snapjaw Swarm on turn 2, immediately hit Rek'Sai, no predicts done to this point, LOL, and that accounted for another basically +3 attack to all of their units over the course of the game. And it's just, like, if I wanted to come out and roll the dice, I'd rather just go to the fucking casino. And so that's ultimately what feels super bad about playing Lurk, is I feel like that game we just played would have been 100% winnable if that hit on turn 2 was not Rek'Sai. Right? That Rek'Sai giving all of those extra bonuses attacks for the opponent doing literally nothing is what basically won the game for them there. And I feel like that's where a lot of the frustration for this comes from. I feel like the frustration you'll read about on Reddit about, playing against Lurk, they hit their Lurk every time. Like, that's misguided. That's just the casuals not understanding the game. The actual, like, real problems in this space are kind of like that, as to where they hit the Rek'Sai or they hit the Pike. They didn't have to predict. They didn't have to do anything. And then they just naturally start winning from there. Now this is one of these spots with this deck which is kind of tough. It makes me question how much we still want these Dragon Guard Lieutenants. I'm going to hang on to the Lieutenant and the Lodestone and then look for another early game play. You know, we're probably going to have to drop him without Challenger. That's a problem from the deck building that we've decided on, right? We're only playing like 8 dragons in here. We know that we're kind of limited in that sense, and so making the decision to throw away the dragon without initially getting that bonus. Not like the Lurk deck, though. It's just like, what if Dragon Guard Lieutenant said, or if the top card of your deck is a dragon, right? You don't have to do anything. Don't worry about actually doing anything meaningful. Just you know, roll some dice and maybe, maybe you'll hit it. Ugh. I can continue on, because the thing to me, as we continue, that I feel like Lurk has a great place within the space of Runeterra. I think it's very important to have decks like Lurk, have decks like Elites that are very linear strategies, to where the idea that you're going to be doing is very like, okay, look at my hand, I have a 1-drop, it's an elite, I'm going to put it on the board. On turn 2, I have this card that boosts all the elites, I'm going to put that on board. On turn 3, I could play another elite. Turn 4, maybe I don't play an elite and I play a single combat. Like, it's very straightforward in terms of what the deck is trying to do. And that is exceptionally important for newer players and more casual players, or a Path of Champions player coming over and not necessarily being as used to the kind of competitive scenes. Like, I think it's very important to have those straightforward linear decks. It just sucks so much that space has to be occupied by a deck as high rolly as Lurk. So we'll get over it, I guess. maybe one day I'll let these things go. So how do we feel about giving him the opportunity to trade for Durandi Sculptor? Like, we're doing this 100% of the time. Pale Cascade here, fairly likely. Wouldn't be surprised if this deck has Inner Beasts in it. Like, combat tricks here aren't too crazy. But if he has a trick, he's always playing it on Pantheon. And so, like, do we care about the stat bonuses from the Sculptor anymore? I don't think we do. You know, it's getting to the point to where we haven't hit any Formidables anyways. We're just going to be dropping Screeching Dragon next turn. Getting us the chance to take that unit off board feels kind of nice. The kind of flip side of the equation here with the Durandi Sculptor is we do have Champion Strength in hand. And so we are kind of missing out on some opportunities to get extra stats through with this Champion Strength. And Udyr. So do we want to spend our Hush now? I was mainly thinking it's like, well, we can do some like single combat-y kind of stuff in here. I think I'm leaning towards just blocking Pantheon with the Petricite Hound, having him play a card, and then following up with Hush. The question's going to be, do we want to take down Udyr with the Shyvana and Gentleman's Duel? Oh, fuck. He's just naturally a 5/3? Oh, he has a combat reel. I saw the Overwhelm on him and just assumed that it was the Fish-a-Whack, but he already has Overwhelm. Shit. This is not awesome. Gotta get him off the board. If I'd realized that, I would have just gone for the the Shyvana hit onto Udyr and given up from there. That's kind of a bummer. I'm too distracted by Lurk. I'm out here going on about Lurk too much, and so that's a bummer. That Pantheon wasn't really near flipping. The second Shyvana coming in. I'm kind of tempted to just give up on this turn and then go for the champion strength next turn. We'll see what he adds to the board. That's fine. But we can get the big stat bonus next turn and maybe get a double challenge or something. We have a lot of options. This open attack isn't super scary. Now that I realize Udyr doesn't have Overwhelm because that's a combat reel and not a Fish Whack. He just picked up the Fish Whack here. I feel a little bit safer. So the bummer with this space is he has the mana for Harsh Winds. So that's likely to be what's coming in. Like him just, I mean, this is a good unit in the Saurion, but with him just being like, LOL, I have 5 mana, you do have to worry about the Harsh Winds. I just don't feel like we had the time to get like Broadwing on board and then Harsh Winds. It doesn't really seem like that's on the table. Maybe not. He would have just snapped off an attack if he had the Harsh Winds, right? You say, LOL, here comes the squad with my perfect attacks.
Do not test my patience.
Hey, what do we got? We got some kind of slow spell hitting the middle. Is this gonna be a what's the Udyr flip? I love it so much. Beasts within, spirits unleashed. Spirits unleashed. I love it so much. I wish this guy was still in standard. You know. So what are we doing? He puts.
No, but I did pick up some delightful mushrooms from the Bandlewood.
Makes Saurion 8/6. Huh, okay.
Strike at their throats. Suffer my fury.
So we'll do it like this. Like, if he has a way to get out of this combat, we're probably just kind of fucked anyways. But at least this way, our units shouldn't be dying in combat, as opposed to this idea of putting, say, Shyvana to the left. I don't think he's going to realize Shyvana's going to flip in this combat and still kill the Udyr.
Too much salt.
Yeah. All right.
Now I take to the sky.
And then the Shyvana flip can be kind of bonkers, right? I'm not actually playing Strafing Strikes. I still feel like, even with the kind of dragon package that we have in here, that the Gentleman's Duel is probably just straight up better. But I still kind of want... I still kind of want the Screeching Strikes in terms of just these actual combats here. The downside with it, we can't kill anything. Well, actually we can. We can... Hang on. So, I mean, we can at least start the attack off like this. Shyvana's going to get the bonus stats. She'll go up to... The +2/+2 is going to make her a 4 health. Oh, the... Okay, never mind. The card doesn't come into hand until the actual combat starts. So we need to Strafing Strike now. which we can do. We can strafing strike over onto the Shepherd, but you let the combat happen. I think we're still in good shape. We got the Broadwing into Lookout. I think we're okay, fam. They're never gonna see it coming. They'll never know. They'll never know the Dragon Guard Lookout's about to hit. Takes him down to 1 mana, so we can't play that card regardless. Should be able to get the 6 damage in, no problem. No problem, I tell you. So let's do this. The only thing that comes to mind that could mess this up would be like a Brittle Steel. And so I think if we put... No, it doesn't even really matter, right? Putting the bonus stats on onto the Formidable unit. Okay. Sure. All right, we got him. We unlocked a victory. Didn't think it could be done, but check it out. We did it. And that's where we gotta stop. We gotta quit on a win while we're ahead. And so we can pull this up and talk about it a little bit more. And so, like, that's interesting. I liked how the deck kind of played out to a degree. I liked a lot of the stuff that's actually happening within the deck. I feel like we mainly just kind of ran into some curve problems there, which struck me as odd. As you look to play a deck like Jarvan Galio, it doesn't feel like Jarvan Galio runs into as many curve problems as we did here. But outside of that, like I still really like a lot of the ideas that we have here, and I feel like this could have easily been a 3-3 set of games instead of the 1-5. Like the Janna game was kind of nutsos, and that first game was kind of off the wall as well. And so I feel like this probably has like a little bit more game to it than I feel like it's getting credit for. We just need to tune it a little bit more. And so the things that I can say about this over the course of those games is it felt like the Mountain Drake Screeching Dragon package is fine, but I really only kind of want 3. Right, it feels like we're running into so many of these spots as to where it's like the traditional Dragon's problem is to where it's turn 5, you really want to get 2 units on the board, and you have a hand of, say, like Shyvana, Screeching Dragon, Dragon Guard Lookout, Aurelion Soul. And so you do have a lot of variety in what you could actually play on the board that turn, but you can only play 1 card. And so the thing that I feel like it really kind of needs is something to push the curve down. But those early game cards to kind of push the curve down don't quite exist as much as I would want them to. Like the Dragon Guard Lookout, I feel like was pretty meh here. Like it was good in those games to where we play Durandi Sculptor on turn 2, Dragon Guard Lieutenant on turn 3, and then getting that 3/3 Challenger for 2 mana. Like that is a pretty good deal and a pretty good high roll. And so like I'm trying to consider like how we can make more of that happen, right? The way that we want this game to kind of progress is like the 2/2/2 opener, right? To where we play any 2-drop, and then we have the 2 mana to play a form up, play Pale Cascade, play the Darkened Lodestone, play the Confront. Like we have the way to say play unit, and interact. Like that's how we want all of these games to start. And then that puts you in that place to where on turn 4, if you just play Balin, you're feeling pretty good. Or if on turn 4 you just play Shyvana, you're feeling pretty good. On turn 4, if you add a 2-drop and then you bank 2 mana, and then on turn 5 you play Screeching Dragon, like that all feels pretty good. Like that's what leads into all of these really powerful openers. But the question starts to become, how do we achieve this to where A, we play another Dragon Guard Lieutenant, B, we have enough dragons to still support it, right? We have 8 dragons in our deck right now. We definitely missed Behold a few times, but I don't want to add more dragons to the deck. Like I could see maybe cutting out a Mountain Drake, adding in the Targon Dragon that costs 3 mana, and that being like one way to kind of push the curve down. But that was kind of like what was consistently the problem, in that I want another early game play. I want another early game combat trick. and I want to maintain a high dragon count. And so I'll have to dabble with this a little bit more and see if we can kind of solve that problem. Because I feel like again, like in that game one was kind of nonsense. The Janna game was complete nonsense against Sir Turmund. We really threw away a lot of our rallies instead of building up board. Like I feel like if I had more experience with these cards we were playing, things would have been going a lot better. But there are some changes right out the gates that I do want to make. And so I don't want to immediately throw this one away just yet. You might see us playing this a little bit differently over the course of the Ruthless Rumbles that are about to start coming up. But in this current iteration, I don't really like it. As a beta test, I feel like this was a good game. Is this like a direct deck that I would just copy from my stuff and take right onto the ladder? Probably not. So keep this one in the back of your heads. If you see it in the upcoming days and still like it, we might have some edits for it that make it a little bit more palatable for the ladder. But right now, it certainly needs some work. And so, good stuff. Nonetheless, I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.